Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a powerful group of Shakespeare's sonnets that really get into the universal pain of loving someone from a distance. It's a problem he was wrestling with 400 years ago, and wow, he tried to solve it in some pretty ingenious ways.
So the whole thing kicks off with this central, agonizing problem, right? Your mind can just zip across the miles to be with someone you love in an instant. But your body is hopelessly physically stuck where it is. And that gap, that tension is what fuels some of Shakespeare's most creative and honestly heart-wrenching poetry.
So yeah, our story begins right here, with the speaker just confronting this one, single, overwhelming problem. He is physically separated from the person he loves, and he's got to find some way, any way, to bridge that gap.
Okay, so his first attempt, it's all on his head. It's purely intellectual. He tries to escape his physical prison just by using the power of his mind, to see if thought alone can conquer actual geography.
And he starts with this absolutely brilliant paradox. He realizes that his vision is actually sharpest when his eyes are completely closed. In his dreams, the image of his beloved is darkly bright, somehow more vivid and more real than anything he sees in the dull, ordinary light of day.
Now, to explain what's happening to him, Shakespeare turns to the science of his day, which was this ancient idea of the four elements. See, he argues his body is made of the heavy elements, earth and water, so it's slow, it's trapped, and all it can really do is weep. But his soul? Well, that's made of the light, swift stuff, air and fire. It's pure thought and desire, and it can just race across any distance to be with his beloved in a split second.
But here's the catch. This brilliant intellectual escape, it ultimately fails. It just creates this restless, painful cycle. His thoughts might return with good news, giving him a moment of joy, but that joy immediately sends them racing back to his love, and poof! The sadness of being alone crashes right back down on him all over again.
So clearly, just thinking your way out of loneliness isn't going to cut it. And this forces him to his second attempt, trying to find substitutes. Physical things, metaphors, anything to stand in for the real person. He kicks this off with this wonderfully playful little courtroom drama between his eye and his heart over who really owns the beloved. They take their case to a jury of his thoughts, and they come back with a verdict. The eye gets ownership of the outward appearance, sure, but the heart gets the much more precious inward love.
And this legal truce leads him straight to the idea of a painted banquet. When his eyes are literally starving for a look at his beloved, they can feast on a miniature portrait. It's like a substitute meal, a way to nourish his love with an image when the real person just isn't there.
Then he switches metaphors completely, to a physical journey. He describes how, when he's traveling away from his beloved, even his horse seems to feel his sorrow, just plodding along slowly and reluctantly. The further he goes, the heavier his grief gets, because all his joy is back in the direction he just left.
But on the return journey, that's a whole different story. Everything changes. His desire is so powerful, so urgent, that there is no horse on earth that could possibly keep up. His love itself is the engine, and it's way faster than any animal.
He even tries to reframe the pain of absence as like a good thing. He compares himself to a rich man who keeps his treasure locked away and only looks at it occasionally. And why would he do that? Well, because rarity keeps pleasure sharp. Constant access, he argues, would just make the whole thing less special.
But all these substitutes, they're just not enough. They're temporary fixes. And this leads him to his final, most audacious solution. He decides he's not just going to defeat distance, he's going to defeat time itself through the power of his art.
This has got to be one of the boldest claims ever written. He declares, flat out, that this very poem, these words right here, will be more permanent than any stone statue or gilded tomb of any king.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the conflict. He pictures time as this lazy, sluggish force that lets everything just crumble into dust and be forgotten. But against this force of decay, he pits his powerful rhyme, which he argues is a living record that will outlast war, death, and even the end of the world. It's an absolutely incredible promise, and it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In our world of bit rot and fleeting digital data, does this 400-year-old claim that art can make you immortal, does that still hold true today? But right after that triumphant peak, the story takes one final dark turn. Shakespeare pulls back the curtain to reveal the deep, psychological cost of this all-consuming devotion, a cost that even immortal poetry can't just erase.
See, the speaker takes on the role of a slave, which was actually a common poetic tradition at the time called loving servitude. But where other poets used it as kind of a romantic gesture, Shakespeare, well, he pushes it to this uncomfortable and psychologically raw extreme.
And this is where the painful irony really hits. He makes a list of everything a devoted slave is forbidden to think or feel: impatience, bitterness, jealousy. But by listing all the things he's not supposed to feel, he's basically screaming the quiet part out loud, revealing the very torment he's trying so hard to suppress. It's a confession disguised as loyalty.
So in the end, even the grand triumph of art can't change the daily reality of his situation. He simply has to wait. And he calls this waiting exactly what it is: a living hell. He's forced to accept his beloved's actions without complaint, good or bad, leaving us with this powerful, unresolved picture of the true cost of loving from afar.